you're weaving their life experiences into your own tapestry, right? It's
Right.
like constant weave. And so you're right. You're never going to find, there is no person that is perfect that you're trying to emulate exactly. You're not living the same life. No two lives are the same. So you're
Right.
trying to take good pieces from one or the other and connect and try to make that be a thing, right? That works for you. And so they say like you're the constant combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now do you want to spend only time with mentors? I don't think that's a personally enjoyable way, right? You want peers and friends.
Welcome back to Curiosity Class, the podcast where we break down complex topics into easy to understand ideas and bite-sized pieces. My name is Jeff Album, and I've been a curious person my entire life. Inspired by Albert Einstein's quote, "If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough," we aim to make learning accessible and engaging. On this show, we're going to bring you experts from various fields, ranging from personal finance to physics, to help you understand everything from 401ks to how airplanes fly. So let's dive in and satisfy our curiosity together. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Curiosity Class. Today, I have the honor and privilege of being joined by my now good friend, Matt Weiss. Matt, thanks for being here, man.
Absolutely. Excited to chat today and talk about some cool topics.
Absolutely. So there's like 1,000 different directions we could head with you. You have one of the most insane backgrounds and backstories I've ever heard. So do you want to give people, if you can, a quick synopsis of who Matt Weiss is?
Sure. My quick life. Basically born in New York, grew up in northern New Jersey, best place in the world, I think. Always patriotic and loyal to that place. Uh, Went to Wharton as an undergrad and sub-matriculated and joined the MBA program. So got a pretty fast career acceleration experience at a young age in business. Was going to go into banking like all the other typical finance dudes and girls, and I decided I want to take a bigger risk, and I joined an early stage company called Enduro Industries. Enduro is the fastest growing defense company in the world. Back then, we were a tiny little ragtag group. We founded genius who created the Oculus Rift, and then we became a massive company. So Enduro was wild. Learned about defense, launched some pretty crazy products, and did acquisitions for them for a while. And then did a pretty interesting career pivot and decided to join the United States Marine Corps. Became a signals intelligence officer in the Marine Corps, which was another wild experience. We can talk about that at length and at nauseam. But really cool. Got to do a deployment, wrote a little book about the experience or sort of a issue that the Marine Corps faced. And now I'm in Austin, Texas. Just got out of the Marine Corps, got recruited to launch an AI startup, and that's my current life here. So that's where we are today.
Unbelievable, man. Well, for starters, thank you for your service. You
Hoorah.
know,
I appreciate that.
and yeah, I mean, we can go from the undergrad to the MBA to the startup employee to the Marine Corps to the author and now to a startup founder or co-founder. So I mean, I would love to, if you don't mind touching a little bit on the book that you wrote, because I think that's super fascinating and a very interesting topic.
Yeah, the book was really cool. I basically saw a real need to get these thoughts on paper, but the military as a whole is suffering a massive recruiting crisis with Generation Z. That's those born between 1998 and 2012. Pew roughly defines it. And we're struggling. I mean, all branches are struggling. The Army specifically, the Marine Corps does a little bit better of a job, but we're also a smaller branch. And the generals don't really know what to do. And so I was a young second lieutenant, super low on the totem pole, but I also was just recently recruited, and it's my generation of age that's being recruited. So I said, hey, I think I could write some serious stuff and get some traction on this. Didn't do it for profit or anything. It was literally just like a thought piece. The book is a money losing. Writing a book for anyone that's interested is usually a money losing expedition. But it was pretty cool that the book was impactful, read by thousands of people. And my little claim to fame was that it reached the highest levels of the military. So I got positive confirmation from many generals, but specifically the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, which is the senior ranking military member, actually read the book. It was kind of cool.
Holy
So
smokes.
it is a little plus or a little positivity on the U.S. military that if you have the right ideas, it is a meritocracy and it will reach the top. So here, the lowest ranking junior officer, I'm like 17 levels removed from that senior commander. Like he actually, got the ideas, and so that's pretty awesome. We do that a lot better than our adversaries, so that's cool.
Hmm. Can you touch on just a little bit of your thought process for you got your MBA, you're going down the startup path, and I think a very traditional sense would have been to continue doing that, and it would have made a lot of sense to go from that to what you're doing now. But you decided to leave it all and join the Marine Corps, which I think is an extremely courageous and valor-filled mission. Walk me through the thought process for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was also it was the craziest decision I ever made in my life. I think it was the best one, but obviously the most life-changing, right? And again, you talk about financial, like it was the worst financial decision you could make, right? Speak very candidly, the options at Anduril, had I let that continue to run to a certain degree, super valuable. We're talking, multi-millions of dollars just because of how Anduril got so big. And I consciously sort of knew I was giving that up, which was painful. My good parents thought I was nuts. But at the same time, when you have conviction in life and you really believe in something, I think going and doing it, especially if it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, you have to go and do it. And so I didn't make it, randomly one night I woke up and I had thousands of conversations, remember that, thousands, hundreds of conversations, and real discussions of if I'm going to pull the trigger metaphorically and go do this. But I was really convinced that I wanted to serve the nation. I had been saying since I was a 10-year-old kid that I wanted to be a person in the military. And this is the one period in life that I was going to go do that. So a lot of kids, if you look back, right, people used to say they wanted to be professional basketball players and professional football players. And, people have great lives. It's just that those little kid dreams never panned out. This was a dream of mine. I knew from a very young age I wanted to do it. And the time window was closing. Right? Physically, the Marine Corps training is so brutal and difficult. I could have never done it. Even now, even like on the other side of it, like a couple of years later, I don't think I could have made it through training again. My body is that much different just in a short period of time. And so conviction and desire and a lot of maybe craziness and just went ahead and did it. And I went from being, riding high at the fastest growing startup around to not being able to use the word I. Everything I owned fit in a little bag. And I was getting screamed at about 30 times a day for not being able to tie my boots correctly. So it was kind of cool.
That's insane, man. And looking back with the benefit of hindsight, are there lessons that you take away from that specific experience that kind of shape your thought processes now?
Absolutely. I mean, and people always ask because it's just such a unique experience. What's the biggest learning lesson? Tell me. They love to hear the stories. I have a bunch of cool stories I can tell. But the biggest learning lesson, there's a few. One of the core distillations, though, is that mindset is everything, right? And that's such an obvious saying. It's not unique. I'm not somewhat profound, but it's so ingrained in my head, ironically. Mindset is everything. One small anecdote to drive that home, it's like I've seen the physical body do things the physical body should not be able to do. And the only explanation for that is mindset, right? I mean, we had at the end of training 9 months to become a Marine officer and lead Marines. You have to do a 15-mile, 100-pound hike with 100 pounds on your back, right? If you put 100 pounds on my back right now, I probably would make it 15 minutes. It's a tremendous amount of weight for any human, really unnatural. And 15 miles takes you like 6 to 7 hours. It's hell. And I watched Division I giant football player, 240-pound athletes fail and break and cry, not be able to make it. And
Yeah.
I watched a 5'4", 120-pound female Marine succeed. Like, how do you physically explain that? It's the only answer is mindset, right?
Right.
100 pounds to her was a lot more than 100 pounds to that guy. So mindset is everything. If you extrapolate that, apply that to any business challenge, life challenge, if you can change your mindset that I can get through this, I can do this, then you are conquering anything.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Mindset's power. Mind is powerful.
And so from there, what was the timeline for writing the book? Was that right after you left the service, or was that while you're kind of towards the end of your service?
No, it's a great question. It was at a very specific time during training. So after that hike, ironically, then you stop sort of the physical training and you go to specialization training for
Okay.
your job. So I was a signals intelligence officer, very specialized job or occupational field, as they call it. And I was sent to a secret base in the middle of sort of nowhere, kind of lonely. It was a very lonely period of my life, but I had a lot of free time, and I used that time with the writing. And so I was doing intelligence writing in the day, and I did a lot of this thought writing in the night. And I basically was locked in a hotel room, and there were basically there were weekends that I did not leave the hotel room from like Friday afternoon until Monday morning, that when work started again. I was just write, and it was sort of therapeutic, and there was not much else to do. Again, I was literally in the middle of nowhere in the freezing cold winter, so that was the time period to get the thoughts out on paper, and then I launched the book, while I was sort of going through the next stage as I was going on deployment. But I had that time period. I wouldn't say it was a lull; it was an intense period, but I had that time period during the middle of it to make an impact and write, which was cool.
Got it. Got it. I feel like there's like a theme here with like seasons. Like it's a season for you. So you're doing something and this is the season for that. And then you totally switch and you go to a different season.
Yeah, I like the Phoenix mentality of burning things down and rebuilding stronger. Obviously, carrying lessons over from past seasons. I like that, but getting very hyper focused and working very hard on a very specific topic, and then being able to either move on or take from that is a very I think a valuable or enjoyable way, frankly, to live life.
For
So
sure.
that's sort of, yeah.
And so you get out of the Marine Corps, you've written a book. So now your resume has MBA from Wharton, Marine Corps officer in the intelligence unit, author who's your published author. And
Yep.
so then you make the natural and logical progression to AI, because why not?
Yeah, because why not? That's the future.
So walk me through it. What did that look like? Were you thinking about this at the time? Like, how did that come to be?
Yeah, I was always interested, even in college, in AI. I mean, this is a massive technological wave that's about to hit us, and frankly, it is already hitting us. I always knew it. Anduril Industries stands for AI, right? So it's the foremost AI producer of defense technology.
Got it.
So,
Got it. Got it.
I mean, AI was a key part of that product, and in the military, saw the use cases of how AI was being used and deployed. We were able to look at that. Right? It's an important, impactful um, technological trend. So, I mean, everyone's going to be connected to AI in some way. Uh, and all startups that are getting launched now are obviously AI driven. I was thinking as I was coming out, there's a lot of opportunities that I was looking at, a lot of things that I was planning on doing. I never thought I would be anywhere away from New York. I was so away from my family for so long, missed holidays, that I thought I'd be in New York. But I had an amazing business mentor, a man named Tyson Tuttle, who was the CEO of Silicon Labs, one of the most successful companies in Austin, big semiconductor company. And he flew out on my last day in the Marine Corps and said, "I'm not letting you go to New York. You have to move to this place called Austin, Texas." And I was in Austin, Texas one time for an M&A deal in Anduril. And I was like, "Austin, Texas? What's Austin, Texas?" So AI Austin, I guess, is what they're calling it now. And I packed up and decided to move to the city that's building AI.
And how did you meet this mentor?
Tyson and I were connected a very long time ago. Through a random, he was my grandmother's IT person, and my grandmother knew his mother-in-law, and it was a very loose connection. But because he was so technological, I stayed in touch, and he knew about me when I was a little kid, right? I'm talking like 13, 10. I knew I was a smart person that was building and, going through my career. And we stayed in touch when I was at Anduril and we were looking at doing this M&A deal. I flew my first and only time to Austin, and we had a nice dinner. We joked at that dinner. He was still the big CEO at that time. We joked at that dinner that, one day it would be fun to build a company together, right? Sort of the old and the young, the mentor mentee. I didn't think much that it would actually happen, right? That was sort of a distant whatever. And then it did, right? And sort of it was the right place, right time. Tyson was, has an amazing backstory, and talk about accomplishments and achievements, right? Has, built 6 business lines from 0 to 100 million, has the most important thinker around on the Internet of Things. We can talk about that. So a true honor to be able to work with him. And he was pretty convincing in his pitch. So I was like, okay, here I go.
And how did, I mean, besides the mentor mentee relationship, why do you think he specifically flew out? It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort on his part to come out, and obviously he saw something in you. What do you think that was?
Yeah, I think, look, to launch a company, you need a yin and yang, a complementary skill set, right? He's a brilliant product guy, technologist, knows the trends, can build things. And I'm a hard charging Marine business operations, finance, sales type mentality and mindset. We have a good dynamic there that complements each other, and it helps to build this thing. So that is a nice dual use ability. And the youthful energy, frankly, right? If you're going to start a company with a bunch of, Tyson's upper 50 type people, then you get one type of company. If you're going to start a startup with a bunch of 30-year-olds, you get another type of company. If you can bridge the divide between the two, you get a really powerful organization that can just be a repetitive, engine. So that's what we're trying to do here with our new company Circuit, and it's been pretty fun so far. It's been a wild ride.
And I want to ask a couple of questions on mentorship. So,
Hmm.
what do you look for when you either seek a mentor or seek to mentor someone? Because I'm assuming you've probably done both in your life.
Yeah, great question. And I'm getting to the point where, you start to, I don't want to say we're in the middle of the career. I'm certainly still in the younger end, but you have enough people, enough years on the lower end that you have mentees, frankly, right? Like, careers move fast and the exponential growth in the early parts of careers are so compressed that like there's a big difference between a person 1 year out of college and 5 years out of college. It's a totally different career field. Is there a big difference between a person 10 years and 15 years out of college? Not really, right? The
Mm-hmm.
compression breaks down. But obviously I'm extremely close to my family, very, very meaningful. The most important people in my life are my three siblings. They're all younger than me. I'm the oldest. They're my initial mentees, right? I've been
Mm,
guiding and doing very big parts of their lives from a very young age. I take that as a key responsibility. And so that has always been like a good framework of what I'm looking for and how I act towards them is not mentoring. Now, when you're trying to find a mentor, which is one of the questions you asked in there, it's a good question, right? Obviously, you need a few things. We can go through three. One, you need access. You need someone that you can actually have conversation and discussions with and continuous feedback. There's different types of mentors. There's a person you call once a year. Sure, that's a mentor. That's more like a thought partner. A mentor is someone deeply and intimately involved in your day-to-day life and work that you're calling and discussing with, whether it be weekly, monthly. In Tyson and I's case, we're talking every 5 minutes.
all right.
Business partner is a little bit different at this point, but the frequency and access matters. That's a key point. I think second is alignment of values in life. It's like, what are you actually looking to gain, right? It would be one thing to have a mentor who's a professional athlete. That's really cool. They've overachieved a lot and have amazing accomplishments, but at the same time, they are not. I'm not going to try to become a professional athlete. So are they going to really help in my career and business? You sort of want someone that you're trying to become one day. I think
Mm,
it's something that's a good path, right? I would like to become this person or follow in their footsteps in many ways and sort of achieve what they did, and try to, learn from them and be even more successful, or achieve in a similar vein, right? And so I guess those are my two. It's alignment of values because you want a person that, has the same values, but then alignment of career, ambition, or sort of structure. So access, values, and pathway, I guess you could bifurcate that answer into.
yeah. How important is it to you to find or to seek mentorship that aligns holistically with your values as opposed to certain segments? So, for example, someone who's extremely successful in business, but as you mentioned, family is also a value, but has a horrible work-life balance or like doesn't talk to their kids or something.
Yeah, it's a great question because as you're learning from people, you're weaving the tapestry of their life experience. You're weaving their life experiences into your own tapestry, right? It's
Right.
like constant weave. And so you're right. You're never going to find, there is no person that is perfect that you're trying to emulate exactly. You're not living the same life. No two lives are the same. So you're
Right.
trying to take good pieces from one or the other and connect and try to make that be a thing, right? That works for you. And so they say like you're the constant combination of the five people you spend the most time with. Now do you want to spend only time with mentors? I don't think that's a personally enjoyable way, right? You want peers and friends and different, but that concept matters. And so you ask a good question. There are things that I don't agree with various mentors, or I am learning from their mistakes, so to speak, and they'll even tell you they'll learn from this mistake. Do as I am telling you, not as I do. So I think um, that give and take is a subjective assessment, but has to be a judgment that one makes. I think there's areas where I believe in trusting your gut and going with the gut feeling, where you feel, one way that could be very strongly from the mentor's other way, leaning in your gut there. At the same time, when there's a lot of unknown and curiosity or uncertainty, that's an area to go to the mentor and say, hey, we need help. And
Mm,
Tyson's very, very certain with that. There are things that I know that even if they're scary or difficult or challenging, I know very deep down, I feel passionate about and have a gut feeling, and I will just go lead the business in that direction. There are other times when I'm much less certain and I don't really see a path, and that's a perfect example of using the mentor and asking and saying, hey, I need your judgment here. Let's bounce this idea back and forth.
got it. Got it. Got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. Do
Exactly.
you seek mentorship in other areas of your life, or specifically? I mean, obviously, you're focusing primarily right now on business and starting this up and building this thing out to be bigger. So is that kind of your main focus right now?
Business is definitely the main focus, and I don't want to say a workaholic, but I enjoy working so much that this is a key facet and area of my life. Now,
Sure.
I think lives are multifaceted, though. You have a physical, emotional life with a partner or a potential spouse or whatever. You have your social life. You have your potential athletic. I mean, there's different parts of life that are interesting, and different. And you want to be able to. Everyone talks about balance and optimization. No one knows a perfect optimization between those, but you want to be able to get good connection in all of those, right? Now, to answer your question, yes, and I don't know that I have like a spiritual or physical mentor, right? That covers that category, but I am a trained intelligence officer, and that is true. And one thing we learned, besides being able to interrogate people, is to extract information from all sources. And so I try to
Mm,
approach interviews, meetings, even discussions like this, where I'm obviously being interviewed and doing the majority of the talking. I think you gain a lot when you can extract information from others. And there's times when you're doing that in the intel world, you're doing that clandestinely, you're sort of aggressive anti the other person, right? You're trying to take a secret. And in the regular world, you're sort of connecting, and discussing in a regular way. And so that trend is the key important thing that matters and is impactful. I think Tyson's coming here to say hello right now. Howdy, howdy. I'm doing a discussion podcast here. I have my mentor right here. Keep going.
that's so timely.
That's perfectly timely. I was just talking about mentorship, Tyson.
Well, now you have to be brutally honest.
Exactly. Yeah, he's listening now. That's perfect.
Okay, so let's move on to you've decided to join this AI startup in Austin, Texas called Circuit. Give
Yes,
us
we launched
the
it.
give us the TLDR on Circuit. What is it? What do you do? What are you trying to do? And where are you going?
Absolutely. So we're in the information exchange space. You ask our CTO very briefly, what are you actually working on? What are you building? I'll say we help companies share their proprietary data. And so in the world, we all know what data is, right?
Hmm.
Very fundamental level, data and information need to be exchanged for relationships to occur, for businesses to grow, for sales to be done, et cetera. I mean, this is an interchange of data right now. I'm giving
Sure.
thoughts and, you're going to send this out to your audience. The mediums and the ways that we share that data are always evolving and changing too with the latest technology. And so we discovered that businesses and people, frankly, in the AI revolution are going to have new ways to pass that data information around and along. And so if you think of it from a very practical standpoint, a PDF is a massive innovation. Most businesses pass information via PDFs. They will send a PDF of their sales sheet or their contract, whatever the data on the deal is, and they'll send that around. And while that's been amazing for decades now, it's a dead document that gets sent around. So if I'm pitching a specific product and I send out a data sheet on the product, if the product changes, the engineers change a little thing, that data is dead. That's stale data. It's a dead
Hmm.
document.
Hmm. Hmm.
The next generation version of documents and sharing of data sort of was in Google Docs. We've all used Google Docs. It's two people collaborating on an artifact or a document together. It was it's a massive advancement. Collaboration's been excellent. Although, frankly, still the outcome of a Google Doc is you download the Google Doc as a PDF after having collaborated, and then you send it off as a PDF, right? So
Right.
it's a step better. It's not like I'm sitting and only typing on, single player Word. There's multiplayer workflows there, but it's just one increment higher. Where we see with the AI world and the ability of this new powerful technology, you can have call it an AI brain or generative AI, sitting in the middle of that collaboration and production process. And there you get massive, massive gains, and you can abstract one level higher of a Google Doc and create what's called a circuit. And so very simply and fundamentally, a circuit is the next generation of collaboration and sending around of proprietary information. And so let's discuss a few things. I'm going to continue with the pitch here until you cut me off. You have a podcast. You also have a LinkedIn. You have a Instagram page. You have a lot of information about yourself that you may want to share with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
There's no simple, easy way to share all of that right now.
Right.
A circuit could be built about you specifically as an individual, with all of that data linked into the circuit, and then you can share that out. So it's living, so it's dynamically updated. All those sources are going to dynamically update on it, which is effective and helpful. And secondly, when you share that out, people can query it. They can understand. They can say, hey, tell me, Jeff's best podcast episode he did, or tell me the time he spoke about AI, and they can actually interact with it as opposed to just being static information on a page. So that's the macro grand view vision. We're building a network to share this information back and forth. The network is going to be called Circuit, and the building blocks are these data packages called circuits.
Okay.
Or these storage packages called circuits. And we can get into very specifics around the business and where we're going to start. And we're going to start on the enterprise and business side, but that's the macro 10,000 foot view of what we're building here.
Got it. Okay, I'm just going to explain it back to make sure I understand. So
absolutely, third grader, right? We got to be simple. That's
exactly,
that's the way.
exactly. So you have, instead of thinking of a PDF, which is a dead document, or a Google Doc, which the same thing, you have multiple people collaborating on it. You still download a PDF; it's still a dead document. This is saying, okay, we're gonna make this thing called Circuit, which is like a central place that you can do stuff, and then it will automatically and dynamically update all of the quote unquote PDFs that have been sent out. So
exactly.
Okay.
So it's a better way, a significantly better way to produce and share information.
So I guess that sounds super cool. Off the bat, that's like super interesting.
Hopefully, that's what we think. Yep.
A couple just like follow-up questions on that. So how does it work when, I'm thinking of a sales contract? I send out a sales contract to you or you to me, and there's a number on the line and one of us signs. What's stopping someone else from them going into the circuit and after it's signed, updating the number to be something that we didn't agree on, like something like that?
Absolutely. Well, so you can still lock documents and track changes and see updates and have time tags on them. So it's not like
got it. Okay.
But you're right. You're thinking in the right. Let's use that. You're thinking in the right vein there around a sales contract. Right now, the way that the process gets done is pings back and forth via email with a PDF. So
right.
Someone sends an email. There's the latest version of the document. Then it gets lost because you got 20 other emails in there. And then it goes back and someone sends another one, and then look at the changes, and it's like a really messy process. And even if it's only messy to where it takes like 20 minutes to sort through all that, it's not seamless. It's not a portal between people to share information. Right. It's kind of like a weird ping back and forth and back and forth. It's not dynamic and updated and constant. So in this example, you being the seller and whoever's the buyer, you would open up the circuit, almost like a portal, but it's really this information sharing ability, and you would be working together dynamically on the actual contract. And maybe they would put an edit and you would see, okay, edit was made, and you would put an edit was made, and you could negotiate right back and forth. In addition to the contract, right, what you want, one contract, maybe the contract references like 10 other documents or 10 other pieces of information. Maybe the contract is referencing the product that you're selling to them. Mm-hmm. And you want that involved, or you want that to be linked in what's called a knowledge graph. You want that to be linked in a way that you can reference that or see that or update that, dynamically. Right now, you're just sending a PDF back and forth in email. Again, it doesn't happen. That's broken, right? So here, the circuit is storing all of that information. The artifact that you're creating together is the sales document. That's like your final outcome product. We're driving that decision, driving that outcome. But you have all this information that's going into the quote unquote deal that you're striking that you both want to be referencing. AI will help you and work with you on that. So let's say they drop in another document and it wants to be read in, or they drop in a link and it wants to be discussed. Like, that goes back and forth in the information flow. That's something very powerful.
Got it. Okay. So it's constantly updating. Everyone can see what's happening, and it's a more collaborative way to share information.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha.
It's a better way to share proprietary information.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I would love to dive into the specifics of the business, and I really want to make sure that we talk about AI holistically.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do both.
So I've been wanting to ask this question for a very long time. Dude, what the heck is AI?
Yeah. It's the most powerful technology ever to be unleashed on mankind. That's the way to say it.
Great. So it's
It's
easy. We're done.
exactly. Now, I mean, look, people are going to have a lot of different takes on this answer, right? It's very complex. It's a new revolution in computing. It's a new um, technological trend. There's 1,000 different ways you can slice this. I'm trying to think of a good third grade answer way to speak to the common. No, it's because it's important, right? You have to
For
be able
sure.
to speak very technically to people that are immersed in the field, and you have to be able to speak very simply to the third grader or
In all of us.
um, or in all of us, right? I mean, so we can try a few angles. You can tell me which one lands, right? You could think of it in one way with large language models and natural language processing. You could think of computers to become or slowly becoming and having the ability to function like human brains, right? Eventually, that's what we're trying to build towards, right? The biggest benefit of our species, the biggest innovation of our species ever, even with all the dynamic technology revolutions, and we had the wheel and fire, is speech. Once we created speech where things could be passed down and we could teach, we evolved from the
Hmm.
animal kingdom and we're totally different than the past because we could learn from past. It wasn't just, one lifetime of learning. It was, now we could stack decades in exponential growth, and that's how we progress as a species. So speech
Interesting.
is super important. It's actually our most important. If you look at our entire Homo sapien evolution, is our most important, like 0 to 1 moment. So, we've developed these amazing machines, computers. There's been tremendous growth in them over the past. But now we're at a very unique point where the computer is getting continuously more updated, continuously more powerful through new math techniques, new computing techniques, that the computers are becoming, we're calling it artificial intelligence. They're gaining the ability to sort of, in some ways, think like humans, right? Or think in some ways better than humans because they don't tire, they don't have emotions, they don't have biological constraints in very specific fields. There's this concept of AI called AGI when you have this like massive mega brain supercomputer that like is 10 times smarter than all, 10 times, orders of magnitude times smarter than all humans. That's like the far off, or what they call, um, there's a term for this when we like morph into these uh, you know, basically lose our humanity because this thing becomes so powerful. We're way off from that, from AGI. That's not where we are right now.
And
But
AGI
it
is
is
what does that stand for? It's something.
applied general intelligence.
Okay.
So general intelligence is basically when the computer has totally lapsed all humanity, all natural intelligence, and it can do anything. Like theoretically, the thing is thinking by itself. It's totally, I don't want to play Terminator word, but it's like
Right.
totally whatever. The word for that I was looking for before is called the singularity. So
Singular.
basically,
Okay.
we morph with these things. We become one with these systems, and they sort of have used our biological body vessels and become like the dominant species on Earth. If that makes sense.
So, okay, some questions within that. I guess growing up, you'd always hear about these random things called the Turing test, for example, right? And I'm probably
Yeah.
gonna butcher this definition, but it's
No.
basically, the idea that if you have a computer playing like I think it was a chess simulation, right,
Yeah.
and against a human, and the human couldn't tell whether its opponent was a computer or a human, that was the Turing test, and the idea was once something beat the Turing test or passed the Turing test, like it was going to be this huge revolutionary thing. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, has happened, right? Like we're
Yes.
way past that.
Way past. Yeah.
But
You've blown
I
that thing
feel
out of
like
the water. Yeah.
I have my head in the sand a little bit, but I didn't hear anything about that. No one was freaking out. It like wasn't that big of a deal. But now we're just talking about AI, and it's like, oh yeah, no, the Turing test was way back there. Like we
Yeah.
crushed that.
Yeah.
So
We're
like,
we're moving so exponentially fast. It's kind of crazy. I mean, like you've seen this in Austin. Look at the Waymo cars.
Right.
right? Like
Right.
innovation doesn't often hit like lightning. It sort of just appears, and people are like, oh, I can't believe we did things the other way. Like, look at this, I'm doing this on a smartphone, right?
Right.
Could you
Right.
imagine a world without smartphones? But we did world. Like, there's no question we will not be driving in a very short period of time.
Right.
And it's hard for brains to, human brains have trouble. They can think linearly well, they can think exponentially very poorly. We will not be driving at all. Like, look at the speed at which that companies are being able to build self-driving cars. You're seeing Waymo. That's just going to continuously increase.
Right.
I just was speaking to friends that have Teslas. They don't drive.
Right.
The Tesla
Right.
will self-drive them to the like. That is a huge like
Right.
change, but it feels kind of just like a natural progression. So same thing with what you're saying. It's like, okay, we see this AI coming and we see it starting to impact all of our lives, but technologists, futurists, and startup creators, they're basically trying to pull the future forward as fast as possible. That's really one of the goals of a startup, right? It's to reach out into the future and make it the present. And so it's going to seep. It sort of seeps like water into the general psyche and world, and all of a sudden it appears, right? Like
Right.
Google, we don't know a world without Google, but Google kind of just, and then it appeared, and usually
Right.
hits some sort of inflection point. And every startup's goal is to sort of hit some inflection point where your product or service becomes widely adopted, massively used, and all of a sudden everyone knows about it. It's like a known brand. It's like,
Right.
obviously I use Google, like, what was there a world without it?
Right.
And
You
so
don't say take a
we're
taxi, you say call an Uber, or I'll Uber there.
call an Uber. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's just how these technological trends work. And we're definitely there. I mean, the big moment was one of the releases of ChatGPT, which you probably have heard of, right? And that initial, LLMs were introduced to the mass world on a mass scale. You can
So
ask it like a really cool question and it gives you an answer.
explain LLMs to the layman's like me. What is an LLM?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Explain that.
Large language, well, there's actually a lot of interesting things going on right now, large language models, because they worry about, very basic, have we hit the training maxima? And there's some good podcasts on this stuff. So we'll analyze. Basically, go back to the intelligence concept of, speech was the most important human concept, right? They learn very quickly, or the mathematicians learn with neural networks, and the brain is a neural network, right? That if you train it with very specific techniques and a lot of proper data, you can start to have it be a prediction engine for future outcomes.
And so wait, I want to pause there for a second because I think neural
Yep.
network gets tossed around a lot too. So the connection between neural networks and our brains, can we think about them as the same? Like our
The
brain
same,
is a
yeah,
neural
yeah.
network? Okay.
That's how we
So
think. There's a lot about the brain we don't know, but that's how we
right.
think the brain works. Yeah.
So the idea being like
So
you're a kid and you are constantly in school, and so you're learning, you're getting educated, and you're learning things, and so that
yep.
subsequently teaches you how to think in the future. Is that right?
Yep, your neurons that fire together wire together. So you're
Okay.
learning like A makes the A sound, and 8 times 8 is 64, and you're doing that multiple times, and you're teaching the brain back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Okay.
Like, don't touch the hot stove or you get burned. Like, that's a behavioral learn. So that's essentially the way that the brain works. It
We
intakes a
think.
lot of data. Yeah, it intakes a lot of data via our senses, our touch, our smell, our nose, our eyes. Those are our sensors, right? And it learns off of that data, and then we create associations in our brain.
Okay.
Now, the computers, we had data limits and, various, and this is way too technical for this, but, there are various limits on what we could teach a computer and have a computer do, right? We all knew computers used to be the size of rooms. Now they're the size of, they fit in my pocket, yada, yada. Basically, they got very good at training computers with a lot of data and doing crazy mathematical operations to create parameters and models of artificial neural network where you feed it a lot of data and it learns. And they got so good where basically all of human writing now, anything we've produced that's digitized, really anything that we have in language, can be read and understand by these large language models.
Okay.
So they're large because they're a lot of data. They're language because the input is the most immediate input is textual language. So forget, like, we could talk about other modalities like
Pictures and
pictures,
movies.
and that's a little more complicated, and we don't need to go there just yet. I mean, that's important for self-driving and stuff, but let's just go with text. Text is the simplest because text and language follows rules and parameters. They can be encoded in a computer, right? English language is a rule-based system.
Right.
Every word that I'm saying is there's a ascribed meaning to it. And so basically the computer, which has infinite memory, or we think it can get to infinite memory with a lot of hardware innovation. That's why companies like NVIDIA are so valuable, and they can do so much on their chips and processors. If you feed computers all of the data, all the texts that have ever been written by humans, everything on the internet, and it can ingest it through stuff like Common Crawl, it gets really freaking smart, right? Like a human that could read all of that would be like a really powerful human.
Sure.
And could predict and think in a way, right? Essentially, however we think, they could think in a way that is advanced and impactful. And so that is really exciting. That was the big breakthrough that we saw with the LLMs coming online, when it was basically mass. And I got really cool. I had a friend that was friends with Sam Altman, is the founder of OpenAI. When I was an intern back at Andrew, I had a friend that was whose brother was very close, and we got like a private viewing of GPT before it was released to the public. Okay. This guy was a brilliant engineer. He's a brilliant software engineer. Went to Duke. He's brilliant and works at a startup in New York. And he told me, like, this is going to be the next biggest thing, man. Like, you have no idea. And I was kind of looking at it. I was like, yeah, this is cool. But, like, the UI, which is user interface, was kind of like, nah. Like, and this is way before anybody had heard of this, right?
Yeah.
We're talking like, this is like from Sam Altman to like a few beta users. We're talking like 100 first people to use it. It was very, I didn't realize what I was touching at the time. And I was like, whatever, it is what it is. And little did I know, like, it was about to change the world and
right.
change the trajectory of my life and everyone's life, really. But it's kind of cool.
So with large language models, just going back for a sec, is it fair to say that basically what a large language model is, and we're going to stick with text for now, is it's basically taking all of the writings that's on the internet, so every single word that's ever been written on the internet, and ingesting it, and then being able to learn from all those things, and now when you ask it a question, it basically references or tries to reference everything it's read to give you an answer.
Essentially, yes. It does prediction, basically. It's a little complicated on how the process works, but yes. I mean, so at a fundamental level, that is what it's doing. Right. And
so, yeah, I guess that begs the question: if every model can index the same internet, what's the difference between OpenAI or Claude or Bard or whatever, Google's Gemini, whatever it's called? Like, why are there so many differences, and what makes a company competitive if they're all referencing the same data?
It's a great question. It's a big debate in the field. I mean, one of the billions of dollars have been poured into these companies that are builders of LLMs, and there is a serious fear or discussion amongst the community that they will all converge onto some base level. Like, there is just some maximum. They're basically building commoditized technology, and that the value is not going to go to anyone in particular. It's like commodity, right? Just like an oil and gas, provider utility, it's a utility. It's our view. We're an application layer company. We're building on top of these things. So there's the belief that the application layer, people that take AI and apply it, which is what we're trying to do with Circuit, are going to have a lot more value and make a lot more money, and that's a big concept there. Now, I would like to say, not all companies approach the problem the same way. So a lot of companies have different, those models, what they're doing, they're creating parameters. There's changes and differences among them, right? And so OpenAI and Anthropic have different parameter weights to each of their models. And that means that the way that they're reading the data isn't the same exact way to all of them. They're all trying to find an edge and a unique parameter weight and change to make a more accurate prediction model. In addition, the last part is, yes, we have the whole web and they all can read the whole web. That's easy. Then there's private data. And 97% of the world's information is private data. It's stuff that sits on your computer or your own mind, your own thoughts. That's private data that's not on the web. So only 3% of the world's information is actually training the open model. And then most of the value, we think, and this is a company thesis, but also a pretty widely accepted one, comes from having proprietary data. Everyone's like, the data is the new oil, right? Data is so valuable. It's true. Facebook's data that they have on you and your profile, that's not open to the web, that can't be crawled, as they call it, and ingested into these models, super, super powerful. Companies can start making their own private models super, super powerful.
Like Elon Musk is doing with Grok, right? Because it's just read off of Twitter or X.
Sure, super, super, unique, and you're going to see paid and paywalls go up. So like there was a big battle between OpenAI and the publishers because they were like scraping data that theoretically people have copyright and ownership of. New York
Right,
Times,
right, right, right.
they launched an article. They want to be paid for that article. That's their own proprietary data, and now they're sort of taking it and training off of it. That's unfair use of their IP. So there's a lot
Right.
of crazy Wild West stuff going on in the data ownership and IP world.
Man, that's what it feels from the outside perspective, at least. Knowing next to nothing about AI, it feels like the Wild West.
It is definitely the Wild West because stuff is changing so fast, and we joke in the company like no one really knows what's going to happen or what's happening. Having an opinion and sticking to it and testing that thesis is probably the most powerful thing you could do. Because I could read a
Right,
thousand different reports a day that have this VC firm and this company, and then I'd just be spinning the company left, right, north, and south every single day. But just having
right,
a thesis and testing it and trying to, staying nimble and adjusting. You can't be stuck in the mud, but like staying nimble is key, but having a thought is kind of one of the most important things to do in this space.
right, right. So looking forward into the future, and I know we got to start wrapping up here soon, but so looking forward into the future, 2 years down the line, 1 year down the line, even, what's your vision for Circuit? What do you hope to achieve?
Absolutely. We successfully completed our Series A, which is pending in the spring, which is exciting. So we're able to add some more people to the team. We're about 30 people now. We'll have our first customers signed up. We have our first customer signed up now, but bigger customer contracts. Where we're starting to really build out the network that in the sub verticals that we've gone into, people are really using circuits, and circuit becomes the way that you think of. We want to make it a noun of common day usage. Like I Ubered
Okay,
there, I want to have people say like, "Send me your circuit." That's the ultimate
got it,
grand vision. Instead of send me the PDF of that, send me the circuit version of that. That's what we're trying to get to.
got it, got it. That's super exciting, man.
Yeah,
That's
it's
super
fun.
exciting.
It's definitely fun.
And what has been, I don't know, can you share just a couple challenges of the startup life? Like,
Yeah, look, I mean, it's 100% 24/7. I love that. Nothing problematic there. There's stressful times. You have a team. You got to make sure everyone's growing in line. And, in the military, you're given the stick, right? My Marines, I had 50 Marines, but I had a 6'4" tattooed head to toe gunnery sergeant to enforce the order. So, like, they were going to, if I said dig the ditch, they were going to dig the ditch. They were going to dig it fast. So you had the stick, or else they'd be doing push ups and punishment. In the startup world, there's
right.
no stick. It's all carrot. So you can pay people more, you can give them more equity incentives, more stock options, but there's no way to um, incentivization is all it's carrot. So it's a very different
Yeah.
leadership model, which is a great one, and that's how corporate America works. But it's a good change. It's an interesting challenge for me. I don't yell, I don't have the stick, I can't do that. So
You don't have a 6'4" tattooed gunnery sergeant to
no,
do
I
to enforce
wish,
that
I
for you.
wish he was.
Yeah.
He was mighty effective. Okay, he was great. Gunny AK, as we call him. He was great.
Oh my God. Okay, last couple questions here. Walk me through, do you have any sort of, I feel like you're a very regimented person, probably by
Yes.
definition of being in the military.
Yeah.
Walk me through your daily routines if you have one. So
Yep.
morning, daytime,
Yeah.
evening, afternoon, etc.
No, I
Hit me.
certainly am, and I believe the lesson there is like having a regimen is better than anything, but filling it with whatever you want to fill it. Like people will hear advice from these people and try these fads and do like I do cold plunges. It's like everyone's
Yeah.
got to figure out their own. But I mean, short basic. There's a few things in life that are clear to health and success, and the body powers the mind, and that is, um, I will wake up every morning. I will work out. Exercise is crucial to health. You try to get a good night's sleep. That's crucial to health. Eating healthy, hydrating is crucial to health, and meditating. So I'll try to work out. I'll try to meditate. I'll then work pretty much the entirety of the day consistently all the way through, and at the end of the day we'll read and also sort of meditate to go back to sleep. And those basic building blocks of exercise, mental health, and mental clarity, as well as physical sleep, are the most important things for routine. I've been in difficult situations in the Marine Corps where you don't get that, and you're operating in a totally different mindset, and it's much more difficult. And so one of the nice things is no matter how hard the business gets, kind of do certain things in the military, your reference set is easy. Like people are like, you're working like on a Sunday and you're working 12. I was like, yeah, but I can eat whenever I want, and I got a good night's sleep, and I No one's trying to hunt me. Versus in the military, someone's trying to kill you, and you don't get to eat whenever you want, and you're often sleeping on the ground with getting eaten by bugs. Like, it's just a different reference point that makes future challenges a little bit easier.
For sure. For sure. Dude, you're freaking amazing. Thank you
No, I appreciate it.
for sharing your time, and tell people where they could find more about you, your company, your book, yourself as a person.
Absolutely. No, look, I'm always accessible if anyone wants to reach out. I mean, I have no social media, so just LinkedIn, Matt Weiss is the way to connect with me if you're interested in talking about anything. The company is Circuit, the www.circuit.ai. We're, focused on the enterprise to start from a strategy. So it's not like, anyone's going to be downloading the Circuit app in the next month or two, but it's a very interesting company if you're in the space or have a company that you think is fascinating to use some powerful AI tools. That I'm always open to having discussions. But hopefully within a year you'll start to hear about us and be like, wow, this is a real thing going. So.
Well, fantastic, man. Wishing you all the success in your ventures and everything that you do. And thank you for speaking with me today. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, brother. Alrighty.
Bye, everybody.